we now need to be looking at what happens after the handoff from AI to human, because customers are coming in hot. There's a lot more friction. You've got the AI skeptics coming in. So we need a metric from AI to human, that recovery rate.
Welcome to Simply CX. I'm Nicole McKinley. If you're here for the first time, on Simply CX, we aim to bring you CX insights from experts in every episode. And we hope you'll come away with new ideas that you can bring into your work. And if you've heard the show before, welcome back. And thank you so much for joining us. My guest today is Myra Golden. She's a customer experience expert who basically teaches people how to stay cool and calm when everything's really heating up. Her approach blends psychology with practical conversation tools. And now that AI is handling the simple interactions, she's helping humans step up for the tough emotional ones. Welcome, Myra.
Nicole, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I know you've spent years helping frontline teams navigate through really tough moments, especially when there's bad news to deliver. I'm curious, what first pulled you into this work?
I used to be a person that avoided conflict. It was difficult for me to deliver bad news, both professionally and personally. The pivot happened in a doctor's office. I was in a doctor's office with my parents and my sister, and I received the worst news that I'd received in my life up to that point. And I remember walking away from that conversation with the surgeon. This was news about my dad, a life or death situation for him. The family moved through that. That's the good news. It ended well. But I remember leaving the doctor's office, or after we got through that period of our lives, being so impressed with the way the doctor delivered the news. He was clear. He was confident. He controlled the conversation. He held space for us, and there was empathy. And he didn't do any of the things that I struggled with. So when my family got through that situation, I revisited that conversation, and I actually began studying how doctors prepare to give families and patients bad news. And that led me to interview several doctors. And what I learned is doctors, they don't rely on confidence or their expertise in medicine. There is a structure to giving people bad news. So I learned that structure and began to apply it in my personal life, and then began to teach others. And I never imagined that this would be the work I'd be known for, but really trying to help myself, I created a space for this work.
Well, it's so impactful and so necessary. And I think now more than ever relevant in the age of AI, when that bad news could be delivered not just by a human, but also by an AI agent or agents. So given that kind of pivotal moment, how did you begin building your own capability in training and educating others?
Well, I was actually working as the head of global consumer affairs for a company. And under my leadership was a call center. So I taught my lead agents how to deliver bad news. And many of them were already good, but I really wanted them to all be great. So I taught the framework, and they loved it. And we had a lot of success in controlling phone calls and having fewer escalations. And I would evolve the method, test it, find ways to make it better. Then when I left and started my own firm, my first program was how to deliver bad news. So it started by teaching my own staff.
Well, I think, actually iterating and evolving this idea and passion that you had with your own team through lived experience, I'm sure just was an accelerant in terms of really creating something that had and has clearly material impact. So for those listeners who maybe are just being exposed to your framework and you for the first time, what in simple terms are the key components of the framework?
It's called the 3R Conversation Control Framework. And the first thing we do is regulate. I'm going to regulate the customer, not in a way that I'm controlling or manipulating, without getting too psychological, we've got to move them out of the emotional limbic system, which is where, we're emotional. Basically, what we need to do is we need to validate their experience. I realize this whole thing has been frustrating for you. I get it. I feel your pain.
Yeah, I see you. I hear you.
Then we move to redirecting. And redirecting, it's simply, I use an analogy. A hospice nurse in her book, The In-Between, it's a book about what happens between a terminal diagnosis and death. And so she writes stories about her patients. And one of her patients was an Alzheimer's patient in hospice in her home. Her husband could not get her to go to bed because she believed her bedroom was on fire. Now, it wasn't on fire, but in her mind, it was. So the husband reached out to Nurse Hadley, and they tried all the things you would think to assure her, your room is not on fire. You're safe. You can go back to bed. But none of that worked for her because in her mind, whether it was true or not, she believed it was on fire. So Nurse Hadley escalated to her nursing supervisor. The boss said, would you go to bed in a room that you believed was on fire? And the answer was obviously no. So the nursing supervisor said, you're going to have to go to the house and move the bed. Move it to a room that is not on fire. So that's what redirecting is. And so they go and they dismantle the bed, which is no small feat, put it together in another room, and the patient immediately goes to sleep. That's what redirecting is. Sometimes I can't go back and forth. Logic, yes, the policy is the policy, but I'm going to have to get off of this hotspot. I'm going to have to move the bed. And then step 3 is really not a step, it's a destination. It's resolve. And the idea, it's not always a resolution, because if we had a resolution, we wouldn't be here in the first place. Resolve is I end the conversation cleanly, even if the news is bad, even if I can't give you what I want. So we look at how to pivot to the next steps, even when you can't give people what they want, so people can both control your AHT, average handle time, and CSAT. Because I don't want to, it's not getting you off of the phone. It is, even when I can't give you what you want, I can drive you to the next steps. So that is the method. It is all based in psychology. And when people use it, my goal, and my clients give me this feedback, they are more confident, they show more confident, in control, and they're clear in their communication.
So I know in this age of AI, you are jumping in feet first and exploring what AI can do for you and your business. How did that get triggered? What was the turning point where you saw, wow, AI can really help me?
Yes, and I'm glad it happened now. But I had a vendor that I'd worked with for about 2 years, and I absolutely loved the work they did for me. They managed my social media content. All I had to do was feed it a key idea, and I would get content for a week over several platforms. Loved it, and it made my life easier. And for around 2 months, things were starting, communication was falling apart. They weren't holding up their end of the deal. And so I found myself in frustration and in limbo for the marketing, because I really depended on them. They were so good at what they did. So due to some internal ownership changes, that fell apart. And so I remember thinking, my question really was, how can I use AI to help me solve this? So I created my first AI agent, because I was telling myself, I've got to be able to recreate this. Before I started working with them, I did it myself. Now with AI, I think I could do it. So it took me an entire weekend. I mean, it wasn't easy, but I created 4 AI, what I refer to as employees, it took 4 to duplicate what that partner did for me. And so I created it, I was testing, and I nearly did exactly what I've been paying this company to do. That was the aha for me. And on that business trip that I was on, I used every evening to create agents to help. And I came back with 11 agents. So yeah, it was a problem, and asking, how can AI help me solve this? That was the foray for me.
I know a lot of your work obviously is focused on de-escalation, really guiding those super high stakes conversations. And now, we're in this moment where AI is becoming more and more prevalent. And the interaction a customer may be having, whether it's on the support side or equally in a pre-sales interaction or a sales interaction or somewhere in between, that interaction could actually be driven by an AI agent first and may never reach a human, or it may. And I'm curious, what have you seen change in the kinds of conversations and perhaps even your framework in guiding people in this age of AI?
What I see is, I think the hope with AI is it would handle most of the conversations. And I think AI does a great job of that. The chat bots, and I'll say a good job. The chat bots will handle the routine questions, the password resets, the easy questions. Voice AI can do that. And I think we were hoping, CX leaders, is, we could take the heat off of the front line and we could do more. It would help multiply the capacity of our human agents. And it's doing that to a point. But the reality of what we see is that the calls that do reach a human are more complex.
Mm-hmm.
These are the difficult calls, because by the time someone, I've been on my phone for 5 minutes typing with my thumbs and I still don't get the answer that I want. And now I'm frustrated on top of the initial problem I had. So there is more friction, more emotion involved when they do reach a human. The people are more angrier, they're more intense, they're more impatient. And so agents, what they're left with are the harder calls, which makes de-escalation work more important. So we've got to be able to jump in, validate the customer for that journey that they've had up to getting to us. But then we've got to quickly pivot to what we can do. I'm still being measured on my average handle time. So I've got to deal with the problem, your journey, before you got to me.
Well, in reality, it's measured by average handle time and customer satisfaction, right? And customer sentiment. So how are you, or how have you tuned then or adjusted the framework that you created many years ago, given this new reality where the stakes are higher, the friction is, much more extreme? And are there key nuggets that you're finding are most impactful in really helping frontline teams navigate this ever increasingly challenging space?
So my structure, my 3R framework, has actually remained exactly the same. What I find is my clients, people are coming to me with a renewed interest. They understand, okay, now, we knew we needed to prepare the front line on how to handle challenging customers. We've always known that. But we now know we owe it to them to prepare them with the frameworks and the structure to navigate these conversations, because it used to be, you get phone calls or chats and people were friendly. It was a quick question. You may even have an enjoyable conversation, but now every single one is coming in hot.
Mm-hmm.
And burnout potential really increases when everybody is angry. So I find that companies are realizing we have to. This is not a nice to have anymore. It is a have to have. This is a skill that we have to give our employees. So it's more the relevance is spotlighted right now.
Absolutely. I'm seeing that across, numerous scenarios, again, whether it's in the support scenario or in other interaction types that customers are having. It's like, now is the time to really lean in and be that empathetic individual on the other side of the conversation that's really there to help and to guide and to de-escalate. So how are you thinking about your framework being applied to those AI interactions? And are you starting to integrate the concepts of the 3R framework into how AI is being trained or how AI is being guided, knowing that there's more and more customer interactions that are being powered with AI?
So I'll give you a real example. So I facilitated 2 workshops on my 3R conversation control method on Zoom. And we always have virtual breakout rooms. So before I began to use AI, I'd write out case studies, and just like I would do in person, where a small group of 4 to 5 For each step, we will practice. So based on your real scenarios, I give them a guided discussion on how to apply regulate. So now I create AI personas. My clients through discovery questionnaire, conversations, and they give me a sample of phone calls to actually listen to. And I hear both sides of the conversation. All of that is discovery. And I thought, I am sitting on a gold mine of data here.
Absolutely.
And yes. And so I take all of that and I create personas. So every organization will be different. So we'll call one Jamil, and they each get a different name for each scenario. Will come in at a 5 on a 5-point scale. So hot, so they've given me real problems that I have sifted through, and I go back and ask questions to get clear. And then the persona, someone in the virtual breakout room, the leader will share their screen. I have created a prompt, and each client gets a web page, a secure web page on my website. They'll go and they'll pull prompt number 1, paste it into whatever they use. For most of my clients, that's Copilot. So they will open Copilot and they paste the prompt, and the prompt walks them through. And they role play right there with the AI. And the AI is tough and will push back. And the goal is to take it down to a 1. The feedback has been incredible. People are loving it. Not only do they get that actual workshop practice with AI, but then when they leave, well, for the client I did yesterday, they talked to most of their customers over email. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could write prompts for them to have in Copilot while they are responding to key emails in real time, because they are not using AI to reply. Emails is still all human in this organization, but I can give them a prompt so they can say, here's the situation, how would Myra Golden respond?
Yeah, real-time coaching.
Real-time coaching, and they have loved this. And then after the workshop, I have a product that I call You Don't Leave Here Alone. And I have an Ask Myra coaching companion that's available 24/7, where they can ask any question. And I spent a lot of time building the context, for this. So I've taken scripts for every course that I've ever written, my biggest lead magnets, what I train, and I've trained AI to be there for me to support them. My clients are loving that. So that's just, a couple of the things that I'm doing. I do have a de-escalation academy. And I thought, why don't all the practice used to be kind of, you come up with the scenario and you practice on your own. And I know most don't do that. They get back to the phones. So now we have AI, kind of what I did on Zoom. I did that first. We have it right there in the de-escalation academy. And that the same content, but the interest and the engagement is mind-blowing. What that little change by having AI agents in the live virtual classroom and in on-demand, it's made a big difference.
So clearly AI for training, readiness, skilling, always on coaching, the fact that you've actually are able now to scale yourself as an AI agent, which, by the way, if you're not already on our Microsoft platform as an accessible, Ask Myra agent, we should talk about that, because I think that's an opportunity for even further scale.
We should talk about that.
But I'm curious to go even like one step further, and maybe you're not here yet, but I was having a debate with some colleagues just yesterday where we were talking about autonomous agents in the support business. So very, very much the same scenarios that you've been talking about. And the principle that we were debating, given that autonomous agents are new in certain use cases, and those use cases can be challenging for those autonomous agents to effectively address completely on their own with no human in the loop. And the principle I threw out there was, do we agree that the autonomous agent should be as great, if not even better, than the human, the human alternative? What was fascinating is just the debate that triggered. Not everyone agreed on that premise. And some, I think, were constrained by the realities of today and the technology limitations or challenges technically to achieve that vision of the autonomous agent being just as great, if not better. But I'm curious on your point of view on that, and what role you see for the framework that you've developed to actually become a coach and a guide for the autonomous agent. scenario as well.
I am in my own business. I have 19 agents, and none of them are running autonomously yet. Because what I'm learning is there is so much training. You've got to give it so much context. But that is the goal. I liken it to, I drive an electric car that has full self-driving capability. I have that, I pay for it, and I'm still not ready. Now I'll let it help me parallel park, but I just have, my husband will let his car drive. So we are going to get there at different levels. In organizations, I think for me, what's stopping me with my car is the trust is not there for me yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is the same issue. I think we need more time. So the 19 agents that I have running in my company, some of them could be fully autonomous, but like email, I have one that checks my email once an hour, but I have the emails go to draft because I'm not yet confident. Now it's learned my voice. It's doing a very good job, and I've spent a lot of time training it. Something I caught last week is the grammar. I still have to kind of run it through Grammarly. But see, I'm learning, and the more I learn, the more I can train. So I think with the 3R framework, the work that I've done just in the last few months in training it and trying with some clients, so we're still very much in beta. Do I think it's absolutely possible? Yes. Are there debates on that? People have strong opinions. I had a post on social just this week. I was very proud. I'm speaking to solopreneurs about how you can scale your business with, I call them AI employees. They're agents, but I like the name AI employees.
I love that too.
What I realize is it strikes a nerve with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the comments that I got, a lot of hate comments that you're part of the problem. I know where people are coming from. I hold space for that. People are not all ready yet. But we're not putting AI back in a box. We're only going to get better.
When you look ahead, what are you most excited about, but also what are you most concerned about? Because I know, there are those skeptics out there, and how are you helping those skeptics de-escalate and overcome their fear?
First of all, I acknowledge that fear. A lot of the skeptics, they have seen someone they know and love lose a job, or they have. My own daughter was laid off, and the reason was AI. And so she is very anti-AI. Yesterday, I was having a conversation trying to point out that, you're already using AI. If you've ever let Netflix give you a recommendation of what to watch, or you let your GPS reroute you, or you say, hey, Siri, you are using it. So let's be clear. The question is not, is AI here or are you using it? It's how we use it. So I tried to show people, first of all, you're already there. You don't think about it, but I can't tell you how many times I walk through my house using my AI devices. We all do. A lot of the people that follow me they manage small contact centers. When I say small, sometimes it's 11 to 25. So what you're describing, Nicole, companies are already there. My smaller clients aren't there yet.
Right.
I'm amazed at how many companies they don't use any AI. They might have a large language model that employees tap into, but they have nothing in structure. And I'm amazed. So I try to let them know, we'll try to find out, what is your fear? What I'm hearing is, I will spend all of this energy. I'm paid to spend this energy to train AI, and I'm training my replacement. That is a number one fear that I have. So I'm trying to reframe that. Actually, I think it's going to be like the first level of that assistant. It will help you. In one of my workshops this week, I'm giving you this prompt to be your assistant. It's not going to replace you. Now, of course, I can't speak to what's going to happen in the organization, but my tool is going to help you write your emails faster. And then to take my 3R method, you don't have to remember it. You don't always have to have, back in the day, we would give laminated cards, put on your desk. No one's going to do that. But you don't have to do that. We can train an agent in your scenarios that you've given me in my framework, and it's going to make your job easier. And now you're going to step into more of a leadership role because you, maybe for the first time in your career, you are managing a function. Maybe not people, but you are managing a process and a function, and you're making real impact. So my position is really to reframe. You're already using AI, most likely, and it is going to help you. And every time you do what your companies ask you to do, to find a way to ask yourself, how might I do this with AI? And you find a way to do that, you're building your own skill set that goes with you. Wherever you go, kind of like a degree, wherever I go, that degree goes with me and my expertise and all that I've learned, it's going to go with you. So you're developing yourself is what I like to help people see.
So AI is a tool, really, as one that can help you build new skill, empower you, and then over time, help you take on completely new additional scope or responsibilities as a result.
Yes.
Awesome. So in the age of AI, clearly all things are on the table to, reimagine and transform. And there's a lot of discussion around what are the metrics that matter in the customer experience space. Obviously, you have your standard metrics, whether that be CSAT or customer effort or net promoter score. In the case of, support or transactional engines, average handle time. What are you seeing emerge in terms of the metrics that really matter more than ever now?
The metrics you named still matter. They're not going anywhere soon. But I think we now need to be looking at what happens after the handoff from AI to human, because customers are coming in hot. There's a lot more friction. You've got the AI skeptics coming in. So we need a metric from AI to human, that recovery rate.
That's a great one. And one that's probably relevant with regards to the AI interaction, like recovery via AI, recovery via human, and recovery when you see that leap from AI to human. So yeah, that's a great one. Advice for CX leaders. Obviously, you have, years and years of experience. You've seen so many different challenges and have trained so many different companies and people on how to successfully navigate those. For all of our leaders who are tuning in, who, may themselves just be anxious about kind of what is the future of a CX leadership function or the CX discipline, any advice for them?
I don't see that going away by any means. The customer experience, we have to manage that at every point of contact, every channel, and the CX leaders know that. How we do that is shifting a bit. I think it is expanding a great deal. So I would encourage CX leaders to think about every aspect of their responsibilities, their role, every aspect of the customer experience. And always be asking, how can AI help me do this? And you're coming from a positive position, whether that is getting better data, capturing the voice of the customer even faster, because that's what AI is going to help us do things faster, go deeper, and better. And we have to monitor it. We're not fully autonomous yet, but I would start with, how can AI help me do this? Or how can I use AI? And then when you go to your team, reframe it as, you're not training your replacement, as we still get the job done. In the CX space, we are multiplying our capacity. You're able to do more. And if we do it right, they're going to do more without adding stress, without increasing the chance of burnout. We're going to do it in a smart way where everybody under the CX leader, they all have their teams, and one person is doing the job of 10 people. So we can really lead the customer experience. We can steer it, and we can get so much better. We can improve every metric. We can improve the net promoter score. We can improve the CSAT, because we have now an army of agents to help us do what maybe was a 5-year vision before. A 5-year vision can really be 18 months or even shorter if we do it right.
Couldn't agree more. And I think the guidance is very practical as well. How can AI help? How can AI help me? How can AI help my business? How can AI help my customers?
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to conclude our conversation. And I think it's a great call to action for all CX leaders that are tuning in. So Thank you, Myra. It was wonderful being able to spend time with you today.
Thank you for having me, Nicole.
Thank you for listening to Simply CX. I'm Nicole McKinley. Our show is produced by Larj Media. That's Larj Media. Special thanks to Elizabeth Machado. To find out more about today's guests, check out the links in the show notes. If you have your own challenges or questions, email us at simplycx@microsoft.com. And please share today's episode with someone you think could learn from it. And follow me on LinkedIn to keep the conversation going.